Let's talk a little bit more about the market right now, with stocks way off their lows of the session and the Dow, in fact, turning positive midday after a more than 400-point drop earlier. Here to share their thoughts on the markets in light of all of these big developments today, Kim Forrest is Chief Investment Officer at Boca Capital Partners, and Stephen Stanley is Chief Economist at Amherst Pierpoint Securities. Welcome to you both. And Kim, since you're the market maven here, what do you think? You just heard Larry Lindsay's point of view. What's your own, and how do the events of the day change that, if they do?
I agree largely with a lot of what Larry said, although I am afraid of the lower income households not getting their needs met if we don't pass some sort of fiscal stimulus. So I think what drove today's markets was the news that those talks had continued, although yesterday it looked like they were drawing to a close. So I strongly believe that the politicians understand this is an election, but they actually have to do something before the election, or maybe the populists won't elect the people that they want them to. So that's all good news for the people who need to be helped.
Okay, it's a good point. So, Stephen, that brings us to this debate over whether that aid, that support might be coming in the next couple of weeks now. What are your own odds at this point?
Of a stimulus package? I think it's less than an odds-on bet at this point, at least until after the election. It just feels like congressional negotiators are dug in. The two sides are far apart. It's a little ironic because I think the administration is the one entity that's actually in the middle, is willing to compromise, and is very eager for a deal. My sense is that the House Democrats and the Senate Republicans are kind of locked in with their positions and are just not willing to meet in the middle at this point.
Where does that leave you on the economy? And do you agree with what Larry said about the inflation that he is seeing in certain industries and parts of the labor market, Stephen?
Yeah, I would say largely so. I think what he said about the stimulus I would agree with, which is that it's survivable, but it would obviously be better if we had stimulus for the economy in the short run. I think what we saw in the income numbers that came out yesterday for August is that household finances in the aggregate are still in very good shape, just because the federal government largesse has been so generous that for the most part, households are still in pretty good shape. We do need to see the labor market continue to strengthen as we saw today. But I think, we're certainly headed in the right direction. I don't think we're going to have a big cliff effect if we don't get a deal done in the next month or two.
Kim, let me turn back to you and talk about technology. I know your favorite sector of the market. Down today, big cap tech in particular. What do you think is going on here? How would you kind of explain the moves that we've seen in the NASDAQ, really going all the way back to the beginning of last month?
Sure. Well, I think a lot of the consumer tech, which has driven the market, has some question marks around it. So if people aren't being able to, if there's large numbers of people that could be laid off, like Disney and other entertainment-oriented industries and travel, if those people don't return to work, what is going to happen to some of the companies that they've been using while they've been on hiatus and being paid for it? I have to tell you, I think Netflix could suffer. I know everybody thinks, well, what are you going to do at home then? I don't know, maybe look for another job. These are the things that we have to look at. But I also think that those names were more than fully valued a month ago, and they've kind of come back down to reflect lower revenue expectations in the short term. And I think that's probably right.
That's fascinating that we may be moving from that period of, intense kind of everybody holding up at home. There's government support, and now we're in a tougher economy, frankly, and one where maybe Netflix isn't there the way that it was. Kim Forrest, Stephen Stanley, thank you both for your thoughts today. Really appreciate it.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.